Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'll be predicting who all will be the UFC champions by the end of year 2024. So I did the same thing for year 2023 and I was pretty successful with it. So I'm doing the same thing now for year 2024. So basically in this video, I'll be predicting who all will be champions, UFC champions by the end of year 2024. So predicting it before the year starts. And let's see who will be the champions by the end of the year, but I'm going to give my predictions for who I think will be the champions by the end of year 2024. So let's start off in the women's strawweight division. So I think that Weili Zhang will still be the champion by the end of year 2024. I think that she's, clearly better than everyone currently in her division. I don't think no young prospect or anyone that's kind of around her is going to change that. I mean, Rose Namajunas is 2-0 against her. But Rose Namajunas is currently coming off a loss at flyweight. She might come down to 115 and try cash trilogy fight with Weili Zhang, and that could be interesting. But even considering that she's 2-0 against Weili Zhang, I just feel like Weili Zhang has evolved and improved since then. But yeah, it's definitely a good, a good threat. But I just gotta say, I just feel like Weili Zhang clearly better than everyone currently in her division. She's still in her prime and still getting better. So it's hard to see her losing that belt this year. So for the women's flyweight division, I predict that Weili Zhang will be and still UFC women's flyweight champion. Now to the next one. So in the next weight class, we have the women's flyweight division. And in the women's flyweight division, I predict that Erin Blanchfield will be the champion, or the UFC champion, by the end of year 2024. I just feel like she's just the best overall, or she's the best overall fighter in the weight class, and that's typically who's champion, the best overall fighter, the most well-rounded and whatnot, and everything. And I think she's evolved. She's still very young. She's still improving, and you see her striking come along pretty well. And I know you got Tatiana Suarez there. Gross is still the champion, and no disrespect to her, and Valentina Shevchenko still live. But I think Valentina Shevchenko will likely lose if she rematches Gross for the third time, and then that series will be ended. And then it'll be Blanchfield likely next up, or Tatiana Suarez. And I think Tatiana Suarez is a beast, but I don't know if the injuries and the layoffs will affect her. And also I think Blanchfield is just more well-rounded than Suarez. I think she has the better conditioning, and she has better submission grappling. Clearly not the better wrestling, but interesting matchup for sure. But I do just think that Blanchfield has more upside to her than Tatiana Suarez at this point in their career. Not to say that Tatiana Suarez doesn't have no upside. She's still very much has a great chance to be champion, whether it be at strawweight or flyweight. But I think, as the time ticks on, it will definitely lean more and more to Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield will take that belt. Maybe Suarez will get her hands on it first, but I think Blanchfield will have her hands on it last by the time 2024 comes to an end. So in this for the women's flyweight division, I predict that by the end of the year 2024, that Erin Blanchfield will be the UFC's women's flyweight champion. So that's my prediction for women's flyweight. Now to the next weight class we have in the women's bantamweight division. And in the women's bantamweight division, I predict that Mayra Bueno Silva will be the champion by the end of the year. I think she's evolving. I think she's lucky that some of her, other opponents are other stylistic matchups, and other fighters aren't in this weight class to really challenge her. Or at least not at the moment. So I think Mayra Bueno Silva, with the matchup they're currently giving her, I think it's against Raquel Pennington for the titles. I think she'll win that one. Then outside that, I don't really see no real interesting challenge. Not to say that she's so dominant. I think that she should be there. I don't think it's going to be an easy cakewalk, but I do think, with the current crop of fighters in the weight class, I think she should be able to beat everyone that's currently in the weight class. So, yeah, I think Mayra Bueno Silva will be the champion by the end of year 2024. So, in this one, I have Mayra Bueno Silva to be the UFC's women's bantamweight champion by the end of year 2024. Now to the next weight class we have in the women's featherweight division. And in the women's featherweight division, I predict that by the end of year 2024, that Norma Dumont will be the women's featherweight champion. It's kind of a tough sell, but who else is really in this weight class? That's really what it comes down to. Who else is really in this weight class? I know got Macy Chiasson in this weight class. She kind of jumps back and forth, and I feel like that's her best weight class. That she really needs to stay out of 35. Maybe she just needs to make money in these fights, and there's no one at 45. But I feel like she's at her best at 45, and she does already have a win over Dumont in the 45 division. I think she did win Ultimate Fighter for the 45 division. So I think she just needs to let 35 go up to 45 and hope that maybe some people that beat her at 45 come up and fight her at her optimum weight class and then maybe try to avenge those losses. But yeah, I think Dumont out of everybody has been the most consistent at 45 and most consistently fighting at that weight class. And I think she'll go back up to that weight class now that it's vacated and try to win the belt there. But we don't know for sure. But if I had to make a guess, which I am making a guess, I think Norma Dumont will be the featherweight champion. And she also has a good chance to win the bantamweight division as well. But with no one, that 45 division just being there, maybe another prediction that the weight class will be dissolved. That'd be another good prediction. But if it's not dissolved, I think they'll kind of just force some of these fighters to go up to 45. And I think the one among the people forced will be Norma Dumont. And I think she should be able to beat everyone that's, can make 45 or will be listed as 45ers and people who will inhabit that weight class. So by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Norma Dumont will be the women's featherweight champion of the UFC. Now on to the next weight class. Now we jump into the men's division. So by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Manel Kape will be the UFC's flyweight champion by the end of 2024. So I predict that Manel Kape will be the flyweight champion by the end of the year 2024. I think Pantoja looks shaky. He has some upside, great upside. He already has a win over, 3 wins over Moreno. He already has a win over Kape. So I think all the people that's kind of probably going to have the best shot of fighting him before the year ends are those 2 times he's probably going to fight this year, well, in 2024, are all probably going to be people that he has already beaten. So that's good for him. But I do feel like he's shaky. I feel like he will likely beat Moreno again if they fight. I think Albazi a tough test if Albazi gets past Moreno stylistically. I think that could be a tough test for him. But I think right now, if Manel Kape continues to improve on his wrestling defense and his grappling, and with the 5 rounds is a long time to being with a guy like him who gets better as the fight goes on. And we have seen Pantoja look like he struggles as the fight goes on. So I feel like, people say his chin's good and whatnot, but you never really want to be testing chin. I feel like Kape can definitely upset him and beat him in the rematch, especially with how fatigued and faded he's been looking, and also how predictable his game plan is becoming. Yeah, he's tough and he's skilled and all, but he can be very sloppy on the feet, and his cardio is very questionable for a champion, especially a guy who wants to be a long-term champion. But it's a good upside that he already has a win over Kape, but I think I would favor Kape to beat him in the rematch. So by the end of year 2024, I predict that Manel Kape will be the UFC's flyweight champion. Now on to the next weight class we have in the bantamweight division, and by the end of year 2024, I predict that Umar Nurmagomedov will be the UFC's bantamweight champion. And at first I was going to kind of go past him. I was going to say, oh, they're going to just sidestep him and whatnot. And that's very much true. Possible. It's very much possible. And I know maybe O'Malley wins and, he kind of catches Dvalishvili early in the fight. And then, so it don't turn into a wrestling. He catches him trying to come in kind of similar. Some other fights have been able to hurt Dvalishvili. And he was that limp and he catches him. And also not like Sean O'Malley has never really lost or necessarily struggled grappling wise in his UFC career. So it's not like it's a track record of him just having issues with grapplers necessarily, but our established track record of him struggling with grapplers. So maybe I was thinking trying to think of that and probably edge towards Sean O'Malley. But Umar Nurmagomedov, given the fact that he's likely going to fight Corey Sandhagen at the beginning of the year or early on in the year, that really sets him up for a chance to fight for a title by the end of this year. And I do think he has a good chance. I feel like he's evolving and he's a very well-rounded fighter. Might be a little too soon, but I feel like he's a fighter that can adapt and, rise to the occasion. And I think he could definitely mix it up more than maybe Sterling did against O'Malley. Then really look to find holes in the grappling game of O'Malley. So I think Umar Nurmagomedov, not as I've most recently seen him, but I feel he can make adjustments and adapt and grow into the moment, grow underneath the lights and do what he needs to do to win the belt. So, and now the fact that he's starting the year off fighting Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen has been pretty much like you beat Corey Sandhagen, you get a title shot. Seemed like Dillashaw got a title shot. Aljamain Sterling got a title shot. I think Petr Yan got a rematch. So every single time he beat Corey Sandhagen, you pretty much get a title shot. So I'm not saying that's an easy fight for him at all. It's a very, very hard fight. Probably really one of the harder fights for him. But I do think he gets past Corey Sandhagen, or at least I'm predicting in this video. Maybe I'll have a different prediction, but this is my year-end prediction. But yeah, I think Umar Nurmagomedov will be the champion. I think Corey Sandhagen will push him right in the spot he needs to be to get a title shot before the year ends, and I think he rises to the occasion. So by the end of year 2024, I predict that Umar Nurmagomedov will be the UFC's bantamweight champion. Now to our next weight class we have in the featherweight division, and by the end of year 2024, I predict that Ilia Topuria will be the UFC's featherweight champion. And I thought he would be the UFC's featherweight champion by the end of year 2023, but he never really got his chance or his title shot in that year because he never got his title shot in that year because Volkanovski, had 2 fights with Islam Makhachev, and that held him up. He had 1 defense at featherweight, and he had 2 losses at lightweight, so he didn't have his 2 fights, or at least his 2 fights at featherweight. If he had 2 fights, he would have fought Ilia Topuria, and I predicted Ilia Topuria would have finished him. But now he gets to start this year off fighting Ilia Topuria, and I think Ilia Topuria beats him. I think he stops him. No insult to Volkanovski, but I think he's clearly starting to get to that 35, 36 mark, and I think Ilia Topuria has a great style and great build. He has a great, he's set up well to deal with Volkanovski. By no means a cakewalk at all, but I do think he wins, and I think he should win that fight. I think he should win that fight in the distance, and by winning that fight, he should be the champion. And I know Max Holloway is a tough test for him, if he gets past Volkanovski. But I think he'll rise to the occasion and be able to beat Max Holloway, or maybe some other things will happen. Maybe Max Holloway will move to 55. We don't know, but yeah, that'd be, I feel stylistically wise, will be a tougher fight given the fact how tough Holloway's chin is. He never even been dropped. He's been wild, but he never been dropped, never been stopped. As far as strikes, still pretty young. He had the cardio and the volume. So I feel like stylistically wise, that's a tougher matchup for him. And the length as well is a tougher matchup for him. But I would say he'll win that fight. So I think by the end of the year 2024, it will be Ilia Topuria. So my prediction for the featherweight division, so by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Ilia Topuria will be the UFC's featherweight champion. Now to our next weight class we have in the lightweight division. So my prediction for who will be the champion by the end of year 2024 is that I predict that Islam Makhachev will still be the champion by the end of year 2024. And I just don't really see necessarily no viable threats. Armas Yakman looking pretty okay, but just before his last fight, he looked questionable against a journeyman. He got rocked and was hurt, struggled to put him away. And then he stopped Beneil Dariush, who was coming off another brutal TKO loss. So it's not like you fought Beneil Dariush, who, even all that being said and not being said, Beneil Dariush never really had a stellar chin, to be honest. He has been used to getting starched early in fights, even by fighters that should not starch him early in fights. That's his one of his holes in his game. That's something that's a weakness of his that probably never going to be repaired, never going to be, I guess, fixed, especially this late into your career. Maybe as a coach, maybe he's just a lifelong martial artist, but as far as a pro mixed martial artist, I just don't see it being fixed in this game. But Islam Makhachev already beat Armas Yakman, and I just feel like he still should beat him again. And I think he's getting better. He has shown to be better. Like, he's beating pound ranked fighters, and he's beating them in impressive fashion. Yes, Armas Yakman looking good, but it's not like he looks stellar. I think he came off a loss, close loss that he probably should have won. Then he won a unremarkable performance over a journeyman, and then he beat a top-ranked opponent in a way that, he did what he's supposed to do as far as the strategy guide to beating that ranked opponent. So it's not like he really did anything super exceptional. But yeah, I think Islam Makhachev should beat him in a rematch. Charles Oliveira is doing this and doing that, but yeah, I don't think Charles Oliveira is going to come back and beat Islam Makhachev. I feel like he has a great style and skill set to be able to deal with him, but I just don't feel like he's going to put the pieces together just like he didn't put the pieces together in the first fight. I don't think he'll do it in the second fight. I have no faith in Gaethje, no faith in Poirier. And yeah, really all his viable contenders, I don't really super respect their chances of beating him. So I would probably give high confidence that Islam Makhachev will be the champion by the end of year 2024. So my prediction for who will be the champion by the end of year 2024 for the UFC's lightweight division is Islam Makhachev. So Now to our next division, we have in the welterweight division. And my prediction for the UFC's welterweight champion by the end of the year 2024 is I predict that Shavkat Rakhmonov will be the champion by the end of the year 2024. I just feel like I just feel like Leon Edwards just looked completely flat in his last fight, and maybe the emotion got into him a little bit or whatnot. But yeah, he didn't look flat. I feel like Shavkat Rakhmonov, I feel like he looked completely remarkable, but I feel like he has a simple style for the most part. It's pretty straightforward. It's not really like a high work rate style. It's like he got good power, he got good frame. He's well-rounded. He can walk you down. He can take some shots. He can dish them out. And I think should have the grappling advantage over Leon Edwards. I feel like Leon Edwards has a couple kinks in his striking, and I feel like I could trust Leon Edwards. I could trust Shavkat to take the shots of Leon Edwards for the most part more than I could trust Leon Edwards to take the shots of Shavkat Rakhmonov, especially in a 5-round fight. I feel like it'd be a very competitive fight, but I feel like it'd be a fight where Shavkat Rakhmonov kind of wears on Leon Edwards. Like early on, Leon Edwards using his footwork, blasting with kicks and whatnot, being very crafty, very creative, and start off to a good lead, but then get caught kind of like he got caught in Nate Diaz fight, or eventually Shavkat Rakhmonov was able to get a takedown and on top of him, start to land a ground and pound, wear him down. And if he looked as flat as he looked against Colby Covington, I don't think that version of Leon Edwards beats Shavkat Rakhmonov. I think there's definitely versions of Leon Edwards that could beat Shavkat Rakhmonov, maybe even pull off a super upset, like not an upset, but like as far as a stellar performance, like he goes out there and just, puts a stamp on him. I definitely think there's versions of Leon Edwards that could do that, but the version I have seen most recently, I don't think that version of Leon Edwards beats Shavkat Rakhmonov, if I'm being honest. And then I think Bilal Muhammad is a black horse. I've definitely been riding with him most of his, run to the title. I've been predicting him to win in most of these fights, outside of maybe like one fight. So most of his fights on his run to the top, I've been predicting him. But I didn't kind of be like Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman, but a different version. Like Bilal Muhammad probably had the more volume. He'll be doing a lot of footwork and whatnot. But it's kind of a matter of time for Shavkat Rakhmonov lands a big shot. And then another thing would be like, I feel like Shavkat Rakhmonov could shut down the wrestling of Bilal Muhammad. So it just kind of turned into a striking match. And I think Bilal Muhammad will probably, in my opinion, probably look like a cleaner, sharper striker. But it would kind of be like where Shavkat Rakhmonov just landing more effectively and could shift the momentum of the fight, whereas I feel like Bilal just can't really shift the momentum. Like he's gonna be more so, maybe not by his attention point fighting, but really it's gonna be his really only path to victory, or his clearest path to victory is gonna be to move, try to mix in wrestling, outwork him, where Shavkat can land the flush shots and that can drop him, shift around, and potentially like drop him and sub him, or just drop him and finish him off, or just have those bigger moments in the rounds, whereas Bilal just landing more volume. Again, kind of similar to the Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman fights, but a different era of sorts. But yeah, that's how I see it. So I think the people that's like really around the title right now in the title picture, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov should be able to beat them. And Ian Gary, he's a young guy, he can evolve and get better, but I don't think he'll get a title shot this year. And again, I think he can definitely be a future champion. Am I saying he will? And I definitely think he could give Shavkat Rakhmonov a good shot and definitely potentially upset him. But I don't think that's even really a concern at all, because I don't think Ian Gary's getting a title shot in 2024. I think he's going to be inching his way up to a title shot, maybe set himself up for a title shot in 2025. But in 2024, I don't think Ian Gary gets a title shot. So by the end of year 2024, I predict that Shavkat Rakhmonov will be the UFC's welterweight champion. Now on to our next weight class, we have in the middleweight division. And by the end of year 2024, I predict that Israel Adesanya will be the UFC's middleweight champion again. I think he sets up pretty well to be champion again. I feel like there's definitely a lot of different questions, especially coming off a loss and getting up there in age. Even though he might act younger and appear younger, and we might feel like this guy's 30, but he's kind of like 34 or 35. And you like say he's not as young as we thought he was, or never was as young as we thought he was. But I still think he can become champion. And the good thing for him is that he already has wins over pretty much everyone in the weight class. If Cannonier somehow gets a rematch with Strickland, I think Cannonier has a good shot to beat Strickland. If Cannonier is a champion and fight Adesanya, I think Adesanya should still beat Cannonier the same exact way he beat him before. I feel like Adesanya should beat Dricus du Plessis. I'm not saying that's an easy fight at all, but I think he beat Dricus du Plessis. I feel like he can make the adjustments to beat Sean Strickland, but I think Sean Strickland's probably the toughest matchup. Then you got Khamzat Chimaev. And Khamzat Chimaev, I think early on he could be a big problem, but I feel like Islam. I feel like Israel. I feel like Israel Adesanya can extend him out that first round and really frustrate him. And beyond that, really first 2 rounds, or really 1.5 rounds, I feel like I feel like Khamzat just not as sharp. I feel like he's very tired easily, fatigues easily, and he really is so used to just running over opponents. I feel like he might make adjustments to try to be better for the title fight. But yeah, I'm not, after his Usman fight, I'm just not fully sold. And really after the Burns fight, the Burns and Usman fight, and any fight I've really seen him extended, I feel like he has not looked good, and it's always been excuses followed by, when he has these performances that go longer than he wants them. Like, he just does not look the best. And I feel like Israel Adesanya could definitely take him beyond that first round and a half, and then start to take advantage of him in the later rounds. And it's not like Israel Adesanya has, when we look at his track record, especially as far as his UFC track record, his championship track record, his issue has never been wrestling. Like, he thrives against wrestlers. It's actually been other strikers. Like, strikers maybe mixed in grappling a little bit, but it had actually been strikers. Blachowicz actually a striker, Pereira striker, Strickland, Fordham is a striker. So it's like his issue has never really been grapplers. He's undefeated against grapplers inside the UFC. So he thrives against grapplers. You might say Khamzat Chimaev is this and that, but Khamzat Chimaev hasn't really proven to be this or that. He's more so been hyped. He has a couple good wins, can't take a good away from him. But as far as like really proven track record, like beating legitimate ranked fighters and really climbing up an actual weight class, or you say beat Usman, a former champ, but you fought him on short notice at middleweight. He's not a middleweight. But like beating people actually in their respective weight class in their ranked spot, he has not yet to do that. But I guess you could say he beat Gilbert Burns, but yeah, he struggled with him. And I don't think that was the performance that he would say, oh, this guy is. It was a good learning experience, but it definitely was not it was more so a fight that proved that he was not as good as we thought he was. Not to say he's bad or a fraud or anything, but he's just not as good as we thought he was. And the Usman fight was yet another one of those fights. So by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Israel Adesanya will be the UFC's middleweight champion. Now to our next weight class we have in the light heavyweight division. And by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Jamal Hill will be the UFC's light heavyweight champion. So in new, once again, undisputed light heavyweight champion, Jamal Hill. So by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Jamal Hill will be the UFC's light heavyweight champion. And there's definitely some tough matches for him, but I think he'll be able to prevail. Definitely some concerns with the injuries. You got Magomed Ankalaev, who's a very tough stylistic matchup for him. You got Pereira, who's really supposed to be the pound-for-pound best striker in MMA, maybe the best striker in MMA history, pound-for-pound on paper, supposed to be the best striker, and definitely has the leg kicks to, and the calf kicks to cause a guy who coming off knee surgery some issues. But I honestly think he'll be able to prevail. I think he'll be able to find shots on Pereira, similar to how Adesanya was able to find shots on, but be a little bit more, I guess, direct with it and not more so on the counter. But even on the counter, I think he can find it. But on the offensive or counter, I kind of think more so on offense if he finds it. Maybe intercepts his hook, kind of just pivots, just turns off the center line and lands like a right hand and drops Pereira kind of type thing. More so than kind of like maybe a check hook or, I don't know. But I think he could beat Pereira. I think he should beat Pereira. I already thought he would beat Jerry Prohaska, but the injury occurred. I think he beats Magomed Ankalaev, but all these are tough. Well, the Jerry fight I don't think is all that tough, but the Alex Pereira and Magomed Ankalaev, I think those are both very tough matches up. But I think those are both tough matches and tough matchups. But I think he should be able to prevail. I predict that he will prevail. So yeah, by the end of year 2024, I predict that Jamal Hill will be the UFC's light heavyweight champion. And now, last but not least, the UFC's heavyweight champion. And by the end of year 2024, I predict that Tom Aspinall will be the UFC's heavyweight champion. I think Jon Jones is all but set up to retire in 2024. If he gets another injury or something he don't like the feel of, I think he retires. Like, he feel like the Stipe Miocic falls through one again, whether it be him or something else, or Stipe Miocic or whatever. I feel like he retires like right after that fight. I don't feel like there's really much for him to prove, and really he don't even have to fight Stipe Miocic. I just think that's some legacy thing he wants to do, and I think he just set himself up to retire. I think Aspinall doing a good job to try to chirp him up and try to get that fight out of him and maybe overstep Stipe Miocic and whatnot, or get that dream fight with Jon Jones, or just maybe both. Get his dream fight with Jon Jones, then overstep Stipe so he can fight Jon Jones for the undisputed belt instead of defending the interim belt. But yeah, I think everything kind of sets up for Aspinall to be champion. And he does have a good chance to beat John Jones also. So, whether John Jones retire or not, he has a good chance to beat John Jones. Am I predicting that? Not necessarily. I'm also predicting John Jones to beat Stipe and retire. But yeah, beat Stipe and retire. And then Aspinall's belt will likely be upgraded to undisputed belt. Or it'll be upgraded because if the champion retires, the interim automatically gets promoted to the undisputed. So it's not like he has a fight for a vacant title. His belt will be upgraded. So he'll be the champion. He already beat pretty much the overhyped boogeyman, with Sergey Pavlovich to become the champion. Then you got Cyril Gane, who he might just make him wait a whole year. Like he might fight the winner of Blades versus I don't know if I can do that right now, but yeah, Blades versus that Brazilian dude. He might make him fight the winner of that match. And he might make Gane had to wait a whole year to get the fight because Gane turned down his offer to fight him for a fight or a title eliminator. So he's like, I'm gonna turn you down for this fight. Just as he sorry, kind of overlook him. So it's not too far fetched that he'll overlook Gane. But even if he does match up with Gane, I think he matches up with him favorably. Am I gonna say I'm for sure gonna predict Aspinall to beat Gane? Not necessarily, but if I would say right now, I would definitely say I favor Aspinall. He's the more well-rounded fighter. I think that's pretty clear in his fight against Cyril Gane. So I think he beats everyone else in the weight class that's currently in the weight class. I think Gane, in my opinion, is actually his toughest test, but I think he should beat Gane. And so basically I think John Jones will likely retire and Aspinall will be promoted to the champion. And I think Aspinall should be able to beat everyone else in the weight class. I really don't see too many people, or maybe 1.5 fighters, I think actually has a legitimate chance, a legitimate solid chance, not just a puncher's chance or a lucky chance, legitimate. I could predict this to win without just throwing up in the air and rolling the dice. I don't feel like I'm rolling dice. I feel like I logically predicted this fighter to beat him. I can only see a very few fighters doing that. Yeah, so by the end of the year 2024, I predict that Tom Aspinall will be the UFC's heavyweight champion. And that's my champions. That's who all I predict to be the champions by the end of the year 2024. And that's the video. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and come back for more videos.